Okay, we're recording to the cloud. There we go. Hi, I'm Robin Forster from FeelSoAlive and FeelSoAlive Informed. And I have a very interesting and special guest today that I'm excited to share with you all. And this is Dee Bowden, and she's from Maryland. And she has a very different background that I think we're all, as small businesses and medium-sized businesses, going to appreciate. Not only does she have a master's degree, but she's worked in the corporate world, in IT, and also engineering and in government contracts. And I should tell you, I'm looking down at my questions just to make sure that I cover all the important things. So, Dee, do you want to say hi to everybody?
I'd like to say it this way. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you listen to this fabulous podcast around the world. I am Dee Bowden. I'm the founder and CEO of BCS Solutions. Thank you, Robin, so much for the opportunity to talk to your audience.
Oh, well, thank you, Dee. I'm excited to have you here because this is an area that we haven't talked about at all. And I know it's really important. So I was so glad to meet you the other day and just go, yes, yes, this would be perfect.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first question that I'm going to ask you is if you would take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about you. I just briefly glossed over your background, but so people have a better sense of where you're coming from and how you've learned all these things that you know now.
Well, great question. So who I am, I'm Dee Bowden. I'm the founder, again, and CEO of BCS Solutions. I'm originally from Boston. I now live in Maryland, excuse me. Fun facts about me. I love smooth jazz, hot air balloon rides, and Ferris wheels. My career has been in contract administration. So every time you're in business, whether it's small, medium, or large, you usually have a contract or agreement for what you do. And then I deal with the end part, which is collecting the money. So most people have a sales, they have an order entry or a deliverable of some sort, and then there's that sticky part called collections, and that's the part I live in, and I love it because collections is three things. It's problem solving, number one. Number two is an extension of customer service. Then my personal favorite is expressing gratitude.
Nice, because I think when we think about collections, we always think about all those stereotypes of yucky and middle of the night repoing cars and, that kind of thing. So I'm really excited that you can help us see that there's another side to it that is not yucky.
True, and I'm so glad you said that because one of the challenges in terms of talking about collections is that for the record, let me state this: there's two types of collections. So what you said about the yucky, the repo, that's called consumer collections, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. It just so happens that that's the reputation that some people have exuded toward it. But there's consumer collections, which is basically your medical bills, your cell phone, your cable. There's people that are calling you because you owe them for your product, for their product or their service. That's consumer collections. I'm in what's called business to business collections, which is basically if you come from a corporate background, you probably are familiar with a chief financial officer or a comptroller, and I would be the person that reported to him or her, and I'm responsible for interacting with the vendors who have provided a product or a service, and I need to figure out how come you haven't paid us in the nicest way possible, along with building the relationship, solving the problem, extending customer service, and like I said, my secret sauce is gratitude.
Well, and that's so important in this wonky year that we're in and going into the next year, because I'm guessing that there's a lot of vendors who are trying very hard, but they're hard hit. And so there's even more issues going on now than before with collections.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's because when we came into 2020, like most of us do, you think, oh, I've got my calendar laid out for first quarter, second quarter, third, fourth. This sale will come in. I've always worked with this customer. We've never had a problem. And all of a sudden, COVID hit, and now all of a sudden, what you thought would be all these sales would come through. The payment, the deliverables or products would go out. The payments you'd bill, and then the payments would come in. All of a sudden, everything switched because if you had to ship something, if you were used to shipping things in 2 days, it took 10 days. And so the domino effect happened of what was normally have the sale, process the contract, process the order, bill for it, get paid. A real short cycle has gone longer. And unfortunately, because of COVID, what should have taken, say, 10 days has now become 30 days, it's become 45 days, it's gone on and on and on. And unfortunately, if you're a small business, if you don't get your sales in, you don't get your cash flow in, you can't pay yourself, you can't pay your staff, you can't do what you need to do. And unfortunately, people have ignored those sales because they're like, oh, I'll get to it, and I'll get to it. Unfortunately, it's turned into we have to close our doors or we don't have enough money to stay open. And you're seeing companies go out of business, unfortunately, because of that. And it bothers me because it's like it didn't have to be that way, but because the end part of your sales cycle is what is the part that you ignore. It's the one that's actually the most costly.
You know, I've been learning that as a small business that the numbers really are our friends,
They are.
even though we don't always feel that way. I'm speaking personally,
Yeah.
but so, but it's. I appreciate you explaining the ripple effect because I think we don't always consider that. We just kind of see what we can see and don't get what else is going on. Okay, so you've told us a little bit about how you got drawn into this work. Is there anything else that you want to share before you get into some of your tips? And I know you brought some friends that
I
you
did bring
wanted
some
to.
friends.
I am dying to hear and to see what you do with these friends.
Okay, so what Robin is talking about, as I before we went live, I said I have these three friends, and so let me introduce my friends. So if you're a small business, you may have this much money that's owed to you. If you've scaled, you may have this much money that's owed to you. Or if you've really scaled, you've got large amounts of contracts that are owed to you. So what I'd like to show you is that basically your cash flow could be at this level, or this level. And I say that I bring my friends out to make this point is because there are sometimes when I'm talking to small business owners, they say, oh, well, Dee, when I hear how much money you've collected in the millions of dollars, I don't have millions of dollars as outstanding. Why would I come talk to you? And I came up with the whether you have a little bit, it could be this much, it could be this much. It doesn't matter. The point is that the principles are still the same. You still have to solve the problem of how come you haven't gotten paid. I personally believe that collections is problem solving. Number one, it's an extension of customer service. Number two, and number three, it's gratitude. People keep asking me all the time, why do you say gratitude? Well, I personally believe that you thank your customers for doing business with you. If you look at it right now, it's the end of 2020. Most companies, depending upon what size they are, have been sending out cards all year, well, especially since probably like Thanksgiving. Thank you for being our customer. We appreciate you being, you being a loyal customer all year long, et cetera. What are they doing? They're doing customer service because they want to thank you for being a customer this year, and they want to make sure that you're going to stay with them for the next year. And so it's the same principle in your business. If I ordered 10 sneakers from you and I only have 8, if you are doing business with me and you want to make sure I'm happy, you're going to want to talk to me about, well, Dee, I'm so sorry you didn't get all your sneakers. Let me get you your other pair. And I might throw in something extra because I want to make sure you're happy with my service and you're going to do repeat business. What are you doing? Customer service, solving the problem. And I think the sweet sauce is gratitude.
Nice. That was so nicely explained. And then you got my brain thinking about what it is that I want to send out in a postcard in January. So thank you.
You're
That
welcome.
was helpful. And let's we have a few more minutes and I know that you have some gifts or some tips that you would like to share. So let's do that now.
Okay. Well, thanks, Robin. So, listen, if you're a small business owner, small or medium, it doesn't matter. If you are struggling with collecting your cash, I'd like to offer you this free tip. Is actually called five steps to collect your cash. You can go to www.collectthecash.biz. That's www.collectthecash.biz, and there's a free PDF. You put your first name, last name, email, and you can download it right then. So again, it's www.collectthecash.biz, and it's a free gift. It's actually called secure your 5 steps I'm sorry, 5 steps to secure your cash flow, aka collect the cash. It's a free PDF. It gives you 5 simple tips that show you what to do, how to track your accounts, how to follow up, how to identify the easier ones, and then my favorite two are writing it down and of course celebrating when you get the win.
I like that. That is excellent. And you did that so concisely. We still have a few more minutes. Is there anything else that you would like to share that can help medium businesses, small to medium businesses?
Sure. And you know, if we've got a couple minutes, how about I tell the story about how all of this came to be?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm originally from Boston, as I said. And so about 15 years ago, I used to work for a small IT firm outside of Boston, where I'm from. And I got hired by the collections department to actually come in and collect this money. So you can imagine if you ever worked for any company, small, medium, or large, they bring you on board, they welcome you, and they bring you to your cubicle, and they go, "Hey, welcome aboard." You meet all the team, and I'm like, "Okay, great." I go sit in my cubicle, and then they said, "Listen, we've got some outstanding accounts that have been sitting for a long time, and we need you to get to work." I'm like, "Okay, cool." Well, I didn't know that they had $8 million worth of outstanding accounts. I thought it was just a little bit. They're like, "No, it's this much." I'm like, "What?" So kind of where my friends come in about how much you have in collections is this size, or this size. I came in with the jumbo size off the brink. So I've had sit in my cubicle. I've got $8 million of outstanding sales in the IT firms. So they sold software licenses and computers and all kinds of products. So I said a short prayer because I happen to be a believer, said my prayer, kind of went like this. "Hey, God, yes, D, how are you? I'm good. Need your help because I've got this $8 million problem. I don't know how to solve it and I need a clue." So I got quiet. I got my clue and I'm like, "Oh, I discovered that the reason these accounts have been sitting so long is that nobody figured out that there was a problem." And that's where the whole thing about my business collections is problem solving, customer service, and gratitude. So when I figured out what the problems were, I was able to build the relationships over the phone and collect $6 million in 60 days while working part-time. Now, at this point, you're like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing." That's true. But what drives me to do what I do today is because around October, at the end of October, the CEO of the company says, "Listen, let's come downstairs and have a chat." I'm like, "Mm-mm." Now, I'll be honest. The first time I thought, "Okay, we're gonna get a bonus," because I'm thinking, yes, we made our quota. No, we come downstairs and he says, "Listen, I want to thank everybody for the services across sales, contracts, order entry, invoicing, and my lane collections. We've made an executive decision. We're closing the business. You've got 30 minutes to go get your stuff, and this is 2 months before Christmas." Now that was 15 years ago, but in 2020 we have the same things going on, except they're not having these long conversations. Doors are just closing. You go show up to work, and all of a sudden there's a sign that says we're out of business. And because of me working for a small business, I decided to create my company to teach small business owners not to neglect their sales on the front end, but most importantly, to remember the sale is not complete until the money is actually in the bank. That company went out of business in part because they didn't collect all their cash flow. But number two, there were mistakes made. I'll never know. I was an employee, I was a part time employee, but I have enough sense to know that when you neglect the processes across all the things that matter in your business, which is sales and marketing and contracts and billing and then pay and receivables, you can sleep on those things and think, "Oh yeah, I've got all these sales," when you actually don't. This company fell asleep and thinking they had $8 million worth of sales on the books, yes, but the money wasn't in the bank. And unfortunately, even though we made our quota, we didn't do enough to save the company. And from that day to this, I've been on the journey to talk about why this is so important, and for you to manage your cash flow, track it, and if you when you see a problem, don't neglect it, address it.
Wow. Indeed, this is amazing. This is really good. I appreciate this. And I'm watching the clock because I know that you have another commitment. Now, do you have a course that you have put out that people can take so that they can figure this out? And
Absolutely.
and
The class is actually called Collect the Cash, and it'll give you the 5 things you'll learn: how to set goals, identify easy accounts, believe your work on your mindset, believe you can collect it, write it down, and then affirm it. And you can find that course at www.collectthecash.biz. That's www.collectthecash.biz.
that's perfect. So you've got the freebie that they can download right there, and then you
Yes,
also have a course that's available.
absolutely.
Perfect. Dee, thank you so much. This
You're
is
welcome.
just, yeah, this has just been fascinating. So I
Absolutely.
appreciate your
It's my
time.
pleasure.